We're combining all the best old school wisdom with all the top new school methods to bring you the optimal way to coach and play the great game of baseball. This is the 80-20 Baseball Masterclass with Coach Bo.
Welcome, coaches. 80-20 Baseball Masterclass here, episode 76. And in this episode, we are going to discuss a strategy that you can use right away with your hitters to give them a better opportunity at the plate. Some of you probably are doing this already, but a lot of coaches, especially youth and high school coaches, don't do this with their hitters. And for the most part, it can be a big help when they're in the batter's box doing something that is already a tough enough job, and that is to be a good hitter. Part two, we're going to discuss my odds-on favorite to win the American League Cy Young and what we can learn from him as coaches working with our own pitchers. And lastly, we're going to talk about the NFL draft, and we're going to discuss how the NFL draft that just happened and what we can learn from that, what we can draw from that to be better coaches. So I am definitely fired up. We're going to get into this. Part one, get your hitters in the back of the batter's box. And when I mean the back of the batter's box, nearest the catcher, have them on that back chalk line, the back line. If it's paint, have them on that back line of the batter's box nearest the catcher. Push them back, give them more time. The only caveat to this is if you're facing a pitcher that is throwing extremely slow, then you might move up a little bit, understandably so. But against the average pitcher in your league, at your level, and definitely against the firmer and harder throwers, the higher velocity pitchers at your level, have your hitters on the back line of the batter's box. Again, this isn't backing away from the plate. It's backing away from the pitcher. We want our hitters to have as much time as they're legally allotted. Gives them more time to see the pitch, read the pitch, decide if they should swing or not, which is the main benefit when you do this. When you're hitting, or when our hitters are batting and the batters are up there facing a pitcher, you're talking milliseconds. All right. So why would we not want to give them as much opportunity, as much time to see the pitch and decide accurately whether to swing or not? Because it's so important that we swing at the right pitches. We don't chase pitches that are out of the zone, pitchers' pitches. And also when it's less than two strikes, when we're in plan A, we're swinging at pitches that we can drive. The hitters can drive. We want our hitters swinging at pitches that they can drive, pitches that they can really handle, which is about a third of the strike zone, give or take. About a third to a half of the strike zone are pitches that each hitter can hit hard, that each hitter can drive and do something with, rather than just roll over or hit a weak grounder or jam shot or a pop-up, etc. So we need to know where that pitch is coming in, because you're reading it out of the hand. There's some deception, there's break, there's angle, there's spinning. It's a lot for our hitters, even the greatest hitters with the best of vision and the highest of processing and lots of experience. It is a tough job. It is a tough task to see the pitch, to read it, to know if it's a pitch we should swing at, and then put a good swing on it. Like, putting a good swing on it's hard enough, which is exactly why we want to swing at better pitches, because it's already hard enough to put a good swing on a pitch that's in our hitting zone. Even the best hitters in the world, when they swing at pitches in their hot zone, in their hitting zone, the pitches that they really hit well, even then, less than 50% of the time do they succeed with a hit, much less a double or something that really does, significant damage to the scoreboard. So buying our hitters more time. The only caveat, I truly believe the only caveat to this is a slow pitcher. And by that, I mean somebody who's definitely in the bottom 20% of the league, or significantly like 2 standard deviations below the average velocity in the league, the median velocity. So what I recommend is a default setting for all your hitters. Default setting. You tell every hitter, we're going to be in the back of the box. We're going to be on that back line, that back paint line, the back chalk line, or if it's turf, that synthetic line, what have you. You're going to have your hitters on that back line. That's the default setting. And you tell your hitters that you'll let them know when it's time to move up, or when there's a pitcher that they're facing, or the team's facing, or the pitcher that comes in the game or is starting for the other team that warrants moving up in the box. Again, I've heard a couple different contrarian views to this, and and none of them to me hold up to the evidence test or the rationale or the deductive reasoning test. It all boils down to giving our hitters more time. We're talking milliseconds here. Milliseconds. Milliseconds is not very long, obviously. Why would we want to move them closer to the person with the ball? Why would we want them standing any closer than they have to? That's probably how I should say it. Why would we want them standing any closer than they have to? And within the rule books, they can stand anywhere in the batter's box, of course. Why would we want them any closer? And some coaches might be thinking, hey, it's only a matter of a foot. What is a couple feet or a foot and a half going to do? And how's that? Trust me, it makes a huge difference when you think about the course of the season and thousands of pitches. You're talking thousands of pitches. If easily 1,000, probably 2,000 or 3,000 in a youth baseball season that your team is going to see, and you're giving your hitters an extra foot or 2 feet. And if you think about it's a 45-foot mound or a 54-foot mound or even a 60-foot mound, 1 or 2 feet is a decent percentage. That's a decent percentage. You're talking 2-3%. And some of your hitters that might be up in the box more, maybe they don't even know. Maybe they just get in the batter's box. They've never really thought about where to set up, where they've thought about lining up with the plate. And so you might even have hitters that are shading towards the front of the batter's box nearest the pitcher. If you can get them back, it gives them more time to see the pitch. This is not about necessarily having a faster bat or a slower bat. That does come into play. So it does give your slower swing speed hitters that have slower bat speed, and there definitely are going to be those types of hitters on every team in the youth level and a few in the high school. They're usually weeded out and they don't make it in the college level, and definitely they don't make it in pro ball. There are going to be a few of those on each team, and so this does help that. This does help those slower swings get on time to a faster pitch or to even an average fastball. So yeah, it does have that physical benefit, which is great, and that's icing on the cake here. Really the biggest benefit for every single one of your hitters, your batters is going to see the pitch. They're going to see the pitch longer, and that is always better. When you have more time to decide, typically you're going to make a better selection. The longer our hitters have to see the pitch, the more accurately they will swing at the right pitches and take the pitches that are outside of the zone, in the dirt, off the plate. And with less than 2 strikes in plan A, it will give them a better opportunity in the same way to see the pitches, so they know that that pitch is coming through their hitting zone and not outside of their hitting zone. It's not a pitcher's pitch, which should probably not be swung at. And on the contrary, if it's a hitter's pitch, their pitch in their zone, and their zone will vary. When I talked about a third to half of the strike zone, it's going to vary. Some hitters hit the low ball a little better, some hit the high ball, some hit in a little better, some hit away a little better. The thing is, when you coach your hitters up on plan A, they'll figure out where they have success for the most part, or you can show them some data on it. If you could collect, even just in batting practice, if you could have somebody stand back and just collect some data on where they're hitting the ball well. Also, just standing behind and watching them hit, you can work together with them as a team to build an understanding of what locations they hit best, what areas of that zone they hit best. This is again with less than 2 strikes. With 2 strikes, you're in plan 2. You got to swing anything in the strike zone and probably even around the strike zone, especially in youth baseball. In fact, I was watching some college baseball, high-level college baseball last night. Had some great games on the TV. I got some time. Wife and kid went to sleep early, and I got the iPad out, and I had my iPad Pro out, and I was watching UCLA play. I was watching Mississippi State play, Oregon State versus UCLA, Mississippi State, Texas A&M. I was watching some good stuff there. And even then, there was pitches outside of the zone that were being called strike 3, and that's high-level baseball. Those are top teams in the country, high-level college baseball. In fact, I was watching some highlights this morning from the major leagues, and there was a couple pitches that were 2-3 inches off the plate, one inside and on one particular hitter, and about 2 inches outside on another particular hitter, and they got rung up, strike 3. So I know at the youth level, they're 6-8 inches off the plate can be called a strike on any given day, any given Saturday. So with plan 2, you got to swing and cover that. But with plan A, you as the coach and the coaching staff can work with them to develop a plan as to what pitches they hit the best. And at the end of the day, it's also a sense of feel, right? Hitters just kind of have a sense when that pitch is coming in, their eyes light up a little more than others, and they know that's a pitch they can probably drive, or that pitch looks juicy to them. They just kind of innately know over the years of even playing just a little bit of baseball, they start to figure out like, oh, that's a pitch I can probably drive well, or that's a pitch that's going to be difficult to handle, that's going to be tough to do something with. Again, again, that's with plan A. So going back to this moving to the back of the box, I'm not just giving this recommendation out lightly. This is after watching baseball thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of not just pitches, innings, thousands of games. I truly believe this is one of the easiest, fastest, biggest competitive advantages for how easy it is to implement. It doesn't take any practice. It doesn't take any teaching except other than, hey, hitters, back of the box. You might have to remind a hitter during the game, first couple games, but after a couple games, every single hitter will be on that back line. They should. These kids are smart. They're going to figure it out. You just make sure that they know you're very clear. This is our default setting. I love having default settings for the team, meaning that you may have a pitcher that's coming in there and just throwing a bunch of junk, super slow, whatnot. Then you slide him up. This is going to happen 10% to 20% at the most. So maybe 1 out of 5 pitchers, 1 out of 10 pitchers, you'll move up on. And it might happen every 2-3 games, once every 2 or 3 games. You might move up, square up on the middle of the plate where the plate's between the feet, right? Now, let me ask you this for some of those that might be thinking, well, Coach Bo, I don't agree with this. Let me ask you this. Who are the best hitters in baseball? Who are the best hitters in the world? What level do they play at? The major leagues, the best hitters. And more specifically, who have seen the most pitches? Any human beings, out of all the human beings walking on the face of Earth, on the face of the planet, who have seen the most pitches? What human beings have seen the most pitches? What have the most experience seeing the ball coming out of the pitcher's hand? And how many have seen or have the biggest database of experience? Major league hitters. They've seen the most. Well, maybe outside of those non-major league hitters like Crash Davis, who had extensive careers in the minor leagues. But for the most part, almost exclusively, the major league hitters have seen the most pitches. They have the fastest bat speed in the world. And where do they stand? Where do they stand in the box? So you said, well, the pitchers in the major leagues throw harder. It's all relative. It's relative. One, most youth baseball is not pitching from 60 feet 6 inches. So those pitchers are closer. So now you have to do some ratios. You have to do some conversions. And if you've ever watched the Little League World Series, they put those conversions up there, miles per hour, at this distance, 46 feet, to this distance, 60 feet 6 inches. And you'll see that it's quite a bit higher when it comes to perceived velocity at that distance. So yeah, the pitchers at the major league level throw harder than youth ball, of course, a lot harder. And they throw as hard as anybody in the world. But the hitters at the major league level are as far back as at any level as they can be, 60 feet 6 inches. So they have the furthest distance, they have the fastest bat speed, and they have the most extensive database of experience seeing pitches. And they still dig out that back line. In fact, most major leaguers actually have half of their foot outside of the back of the batter's box. So when you have a bunch of 10-year-olds and a bunch of 12-year-olds or 7-year-olds or high schoolers that have not come close to seeing as many pitches, they have not developed the bat speed of a major league player, nor the physical ability to whip the bat through the zone, it will benefit them over the course of the season against 80 to 90% of the pitchers they face to be on that back line of the batter's box. Oh yeah, and there's more. You got a bonus. The bonus is too, the catcher has to move back. The catcher has to move back, and when the catcher moves back, that means the pitcher is going to probably bounce a few more pitches than they would if the catcher was up closer. So if you can get that catcher back another couple feet, that means you're probably going to have a couple extra baseballs bounce every single game coming from the opposing pitcher. And that could add up to some runs over the course of the year. That's just an add-on. So you get the catcher to move back. You give your hitter more time to decide. You give your hitter more time to decide whether to swing or whether not to swing. And with 2 strikes, whether that pitch is around the strike zone or it's going to bounce or be out of the strike zone far enough that they shouldn't go chase. And lastly, for those hitters, which is a good chunk of hitters in the youth baseball, especially the lower levels, but definitely even in high school, you're going to have a few slower bat hitters that need that extra time to get the bat through the zone and square up and be on time to make some good contact. So the biggest benefit is to see the pitch better, to see the pitch longer so they can make more accurate decisions on when to swing and when not to swing, because we're talking milliseconds. The side benefit, having that catcher slide back, is probably going to produce more pitches hitting the dirt. And lastly, hitters with slower bat speed are going to have a better opportunity to get on time and hit that ball. To me, that might be one of the biggest competitive advantages over the course of the season. You're talking thousands of pitches over the course of the season. That just takes literally a 30-second talk and then a couple reminders over the next couple games. That's it. There's no extra thought. Hitters don't really need to change anything else. It's not a drastic move so that it's going to alter their entire approach at the plate. It's simply taking advantage, maximizing the rules, maximizing the leverage that the rules allow hitters to use. And the rule that says they can be anywhere in the batter's box. Well, be the farthest in the batter's box away from that pitcher. All right, part two, I got a prediction. So last week I did say my odds on favorite to win the World Series at this time are the Padres. Now I recorded that episode before they took 3 out of 4 against the Dodgers. I typically record these episodes a week before. I send them to my editor, Sam. He edits them. He gets them back to me. Then I edit it again to make sure there is no extra fluff for you, the listener. And I know when I'm listening to podcasts, I like podcasts. One is they stay current. They come along with the times versus an audiobook, which definitely the knowledge of an audiobook can stay current and can be valuable forever. But I'm a big fan of podcasts, and I see the value of podcasts, and they can stay with the current situations in the baseball world, and they can stay current because they're being recorded weekly. But I value your time, and I want these podcasts. One of the things that really caught my attention in the baseball community in a lot of areas with the podcast, I was listening to a lot of good stuff out there, a lot of good stuff on other podcasts, but there was a lot of back and forth. There was a lot about the coach telling their story about their kids and their life and, when they started coaching. And it was also really geared around like college and pro stuff. And then they were talking about these little finite adjustments that I thought were only that 1 or 2 or 5% of things that needed to be adjusted and for college, professional players, advanced high school players. So I saw this need and I thought we need to get to youth coaches and we need to keep it concise because time is of essence. So speaking of which, I'm getting a little long-winded here and I apologize. So I'm going to throw out who I think is a lock. This is not an odds-on favorite, early season prediction, early season kind of pick like the Padres. This is an absolute lock. I believe Gerrit Cole is a lock to win the AL Cy Young. So if you have a little extra college fund, 529 fund for your kid, take that out, put it on Gerrit Cole. No, I'm kidding. I'm absolutely kidding. Nothing is a sure lock, but he would be, if there is a lock, I think he's a lock to win the Cy Young in the AL. 2 reasons. One, Jake DeGrom is in the National League. So that's a big deal. I would be very surprised if he doesn't win the NL, but that goes without saying a little bit more. But I think something that's talked about a little less, definitely less, is Gerrit Cole winning the AL Cy Young. Cole's stuff is noticeably better than ever. If you go back to December of 2019, I have a podcast when he signed that contract, the $324 million contract. And I said on there, I said, Gerrit Cole can do 2 things to get better. One, he can have a little more hip glute lead. I'm not going to get into that specific pitching delivery discussion here. I've talked about on some of my videos. You can go see those on the 80/20 baseball website. I touch on it. I touch on it in the power slide step. You should be teaching all your pitchers the power slide step. All your pitchers, the power slide step. Lefty, righty, all of them should learn and use the power slide step. In fact, I saw a great coach, Nick Sanseri, put something out on Twitter today, and he showed a picture using essentially a power slide step, and it looked great. It was a very efficient delivery from the stretch. It's fast, efficient, but also effective. But anyways, I said in that podcast, Gerrit Cole can be even better. And this was when he was coming off a record. He was second in the Cy Young. He was essentially a co-Cy Young Award winner in 2019. Justin Verlander won the award, but Gerrit Cole very easily could have won the award, and maybe he should have. But anyways, I'm not a big awards person. I know there's a lot more and there's some politics and things like that with that. But nonetheless, I said his changeup was a very good pitch. And if he starts using it more, he will be better. So sure enough, this season, he's throwing it way more than ever before. And guess who has the #1 rated changeup in all of baseball per Fangraphs weighted pitch value? The weighted pitch value is the best statistic out there when it comes to grading and rating every pitcher's pitch. And he's got the #1 changeup in baseball. Oh yeah, and his slider is the 22nd best. So these aren't like a top 25 out of 100 pitchers. You're talking hundreds of pitchers here. And he has the 5th best fastball, the best changeup, and the 22nd best slider in terms of productivity. Not what scouts think, not subjective opinion. This is actual productivity, the value of his pitches. So what can we learn from this working with youth pitchers, high school pitchers? Having multiple pitches is big. Developing more than 1 pitch, more than 2 pitches. I like 3 pitches. I think having a fastball and a changeup and a breaking ball of some sort is just the ideal setup, the ideal repertoire. Now, if you throw a cutter when you're older or you throw a knuckleball, of course, you're going to fall into a different category like Mariano Rivera or Phil Niekro, Charlie Huff. You're going in a different category. But for 99% of pitchers and almost almost every youth pitcher, a fastball, a changeup. The grip may be different on that changeup. Back to the fastball, it may be a 2-seam or a 4-seam fastball. It may be a different grip on the fastball. You may look for some run. You may look for some firmness, staying up in the zone with a firm 4-seam fastball. The changeup grip may be different. It definitely will be different depending on the pitcher. Even a circle change has variations depending on the pitcher and how it feels and how it comes out and the results they're getting. But I truly believe the three pitches that every pitcher should develop: a fastball. I'm a big believer in youth pitchers not having multiple types of fastballs in terms of grip. Get a grip for the pitch that they have the best control with and they get the best results, and throw that as your fastball. Your changeup, match the changeup to your fastball grip. So if you throw a 4-seam fastball, throw a 4-seam changeup grip. And there's a video on the 8020baseball.com website. I have a video about changeups. It also discusses why youth pitchers, there's 3 reasons why youth pitchers have limited success or not as much success with a changeup as they will as they get older. And I break that down. It's very transparent. It's very upfront, so we can be upfront with our pitchers as to when and why the changeup is going to start being successful or not successful. But nevertheless, when they're throwing their changeup, they should match the spin. A 4-seam fastball with a 4-seam changeup spin, a 2-seam fastball with a 2-seam changeup spin. Match the spin of the fastball with the spin of the changeup, or vice versa. Match the changeup spin to mimic or mirror and match up with that fastball spin. And then a breaking ball, whether that's a curveball or a slider, whatever gets the best results and works the best for that pitcher, your pitcher. So Gerrit Cole right now to me is dialed in, and what we can learn is, hey, he already essentially won a Cy Young, not throwing a changeup very much at all. Now he's throwing a changeup, and not only is he throwing it a lot more, I mean, he threw it before, but now he's throwing it quite a bit more. And I believe, first off, his numbers are better than ever in his career, and he's got some really good numbers. But I think he's on pace to win the Cy Young Award this year with just phenomenal numbers. Phenomenal numbers. He has like 63 strikeouts this year, like 63 strikeouts in 40 innings and 3 walks. He's got 63 strikeouts and 3 walks. His strikeout to walk rate right now is like 16.5 to 1, like 16 and a half strikeouts to every walk. It's just crazy. I mean, he throws hard. He throws hard. He's not Greg Maddux. He's throwing an average fastball of 97.3. So many of his fastballs are 98 and 99. He's throwing a changeup that's the best in baseball, and his slider, he throws a curveball also. His curveball is actually below average when it comes to pitch value, but I guess that kind of goes back to something we can learn. I've been very upfront. I very rarely in all my years of studying pitching very closely see a pitcher that benefits, that actually gets more outs, that has a lower ERA, that has better stuff by having a second breaking ball, or multiple breaking balls. And we can get into the whole reason. I can lay it out exactly why that happens, and maybe we'll break that down in another episode. I believe I've talked about that before on one of the previous episodes. Our pitchers should go out there and not just be content. So you have a pitcher that throws really hard. Should he not throw a changeup? Maybe at the youth level, he shouldn't throw a changeup to the half of the other team or 2/3 of the other team, but he should have a changeup when he's facing those 1, 2, or 3 batters on the other team that has really fast bat speed or starts to guess really well and really tries to be out in front of that fastball. I definitely think you work on the changeup. It's something that can be worked on in the throwing program. I see Gerrit Cole working on the changeup in his throwing program. It's not just something he works on in the bullpen. If Gerrit Cole throws 98 miles an hour, who's already essentially won a Cy Young, he was a runner-up, but essentially he was like the co-Cy Young that year. If he can work on his changeup to get it better, we can continue to develop our changeups as youth and high school, and definitely high school, because the further the pitcher gets away from the hitter, the more effective that changeup becomes, because it has more time to do its things and physics can play out a little bit better. But nonetheless, if you got an extra $20 lying around, give it to your bookie Guido. Tell him you want 20 on Gerrit Cole. And if Gerrit Cole stays healthy, you're going to have yourself a nice free steak dinner on Guido, the neighborhood bookie. And more importantly, even if your pitcher throws cheese and straight velo, keep working that changeup in there. Definitely not the priority pitch. Fastball location is the priority pitch, but it should be a pitch that gets a lot of attention, and gets improved and developed. And definitely as a pitcher gets older, definitely by high school, the changeup can be very effective. All right, part 3. 3. Got a quick hitter here. Part 3, NFL draft. You're like, Coach Bo, this is a baseball podcast. I know, but it's a coaching podcast more than anything. Nick Saban. Nick Saban may be the best coach at any level of any sport alive today. Nick Saban, and I've studied Nick Saban a lot, and Nick Saban is on another level. And the biggest thing Nick Saban does, outside of systematizing every single thing he does, the number one thing he does is he brings in high quality people on his staff and high quality character players. So the NFL draft just happened. Nick Saban, Alabama had 6 first rounders. And to be more specific, Alabama and Nick Saban had 6 of the first 24 players drafted in the NFL. Do you know how many colleges are out? You know how many college players are draft eligible? Hundreds. There are colleges that the third pick in the draft came from North Dakota State. They're drafting players from all over, and he had 6 of the first 24. What's the percentage on that? 25%? He literally had 25%, a quarter of the first 24 picks in the draft. That is crazy. Jalen Waddle was the first one picked. He's a short and quick 5'10". When I say short, 5'10" at receiver is rather short. Now, average size, he's taller than the average guy, but he's a short and quick wide receiver. Devontae Smith, a long and fast wide receiver. Patrick Surtain, smooth DB, a smooth DB. Mac Jones, an accurate quarterback, not really an athlete, but just an accurate quarterback. Alex Leatherwood, a great blocking offensive lineman, and Najee Harris, a shifty running back with vision. So you have 6 players, all different. You have 2 receivers, but even those receivers are different in their own ways. You have a cornerback, a quarterback, an offensive lineman, and a running back, all with different skill sets. But do you know what they all have in common besides playing for Nick Saban? But this is a direct correlation to what I'm going to say. They're all high quality people. They're all high quality players in terms of going out there, working hard, hustling, being team players, positive, supportive, coachability. They're very coachable players. They're good people. In fact, Najee Harris held a draft party for the kids at the homeless shelter where he lived for several years growing up. He had a draft party at the homeless shelter he grew up at. Those are the kind of players, those are the kind of people that Nick Saban is bringing in and brings into his program. He doesn't fall for the talent tease. Does he have a lot of talent? Yes. But he also passes on talent because they're not going to fit into the program. And fit is about being coachable, being a good person. So I think this is something we can all learn. I've discussed Nick Saban at length on this podcast because I think he is the number one best coach out there right now at any level, with the caveat of him yelling a little more than I recommend. I'm not a big fan of yelling. I think when you're coaching high level football like that, the intensity, that's going to come out more than it should in baseball. So there might be a little bit of yelling that comes about that might fit in. And he's working with like 19, 20, 21-year-olds. He's working with some young men and they can handle a little bit better. Youth baseball, I would just eliminate that yelling. I'm not saying you shouldn't talk firm to your players from time to time. I'm not saying you shouldn't discipline them. Absolutely you should. Absolutely. You should drop the hammer when it comes to the rules, consequences, bear crawls, playing time. Absolutely, without hesitation. The one caveat to Nick Saban would be for youth coaches and even high school coaches for the most part would be the amount of yelling he does. But I also think that Nick gets that from, and he'll admit it, that he gets it from his old man. And that's how he was raised. He was raised in kind of a tough mining town in West Virginia, and his dad coached him in football. And that's just how he was raised. And so I don't know, that's probably just ingrained into him, and it's something that's going to be hard. It's just part of being raised. We all have our things that were embedded and ingrained to us from a young age. And sometimes we just can't work through that as we get older, no matter how great we are at whatever we do, like Nick Saban. But nonetheless, he's really mellowed out on that yelling stuff. But other than that, everything else he does, I'd copy verbatim. I would copy it. Carbon copy everything Nick Saban does. I get it. It's football, but sports is sports. Teams are teams. Coaches are coaches. So Nick Saban, Alabama, had 6 of the first 24 draft picks in the draft. One of them threw a draft party for the homeless kids at a shelter, Najee Harris. All of them had different skill sets, athleticism, athletic skill sets, yet all of them had one thing in common, and that was being high quality, high character, coachable, high hustle players. Oh, by the way, if you don't think hustle's important, did you know they videotape every single player at Alabama during practice? They watch every single movement of every single practice for all their players. Now, not over necessarily getting water, but when they're playing, they break that down. And I know youth coaches, we can't do this, but it sends a message to the importance of hustle. They analyze every single practice, every single play, every single player on every single play during practice. And the biggest thing they look for is, are they listening to the coaches and being coachable? And are they play hustling. Not necessarily did they make a textbook picture perfect tackle, or did they make the one-handed grab, or did they throw a spiral and hit the player right smack in the middle of the numbers. They're looking for players that are doing what they're told to do all the time, like every single second of practice. So hustle is massive. Being coachable is massive, and that's why they win. Which brings me around to wrap up this episode and also brings me back to the Padres. And that's probably why I would hesitate, if anything, to bet money on the Padres winning the World Series is Manny Machado. That's a big red flag. Nick Saban would never have a Manny Machado on his team. That's a big red flag on any team. But nonetheless, it's always great being here every week with you coaches. I see the numbers again going up every single week since this podcast has been put out. That fires me up. Thank you all for listening. I hope you are getting a lot out of this. I really truly believe if you take this out and you buy into this, you will have more success. Not overnight, but it will come quickly in some areas, a little slower in others, but it will come. The success will be there. Buy into it, trust it. Don't give in to those urges to copy the status quo, the conventional coaching around, because it's not that great. It really is not that great. Coaching overall, if you're copying the other coaches in your league, you're probably leaving a lot of not just competitive advantage on the field, but you're also leaving a lot off the plate when it comes to serving our players as best as we can. And with that said, we will see you back here next week. And speaking of next week, I will start next week off with a strategy right away, a drill, part of a drill that should be added on that's left out a lot of times with this specific drill when it comes to base running. And we're going to talk about how you can implement that in there without actually taking any more time away from your practice, but adding something that can really pay off dividends with getting your players more athletic, faster, and becoming better base runners. So we'll get into that next week in episode 77. It would be much appreciated if you could support this podcast, keep it rolling along. And that's easy to do. I made it really easy to do. You click the link in the show notes, the show summary on your podcast app, click there, boom, it's done through Stripe. It's all safe. It's through Stripe. Stripe's worldwide, massive, biggest company out there when it comes to that stuff. So you can click on that and donate within just a few minutes. And that would be awesome and greatly appreciated. So thank you all. Thank you for those coaches that are already supporting the podcast. I see who you are. I see your names. Thank you so much. Much appreciated. And with that, take care of your health, take care of your families, take this information out there, serve your players better, win more games, have more fun, and leave the baseball community in a better place than you found it. Until next week, adios.
This has been the 80-20 Baseball Masterclass. Take it to the field.